everyone, how you doing today? So it's a rainy day here. The temperature's a little warm, but I think we're getting a wintry mix now and it's going to get colder. A couple of things to talk about though before we get started. Just a couple of points I want to point out that's great. A couple of issues I'd like to point out, a couple of questions, whatever, that I'm seeing a lot in the comments is about this Vivint security system. I said it in the last video about the security system. I put a video in that video description, which is from a security company. It tells about the Vivint security system. The cameras are optional. Not everyone that has a Vivint system has cameras in their house. Not everyone has cameras all outside their house. Those are optional. They come at an additional cost. So you'll see right away that the system can be used with the door sensors, the motion detectors, the doorbell camera. You can customize it. So just because someone has one system doesn't mean that the person next door has the same system. Just because some person on YouTube has one system doesn't mean the Watts family had the same system. Okay? Now, I also put links in the comments. I have to put it in the video description, but I put it in a ton of comments on some of the videos that there's also a press release from the district attorney that addresses the question of what type of cameras and footage that they had. And I think you'll find it interesting. If you find that press conference, it's the one after the sentencing. And if you go in, I believe it's at 20 minutes and 40 seconds, that portion will start for you. Okay? So just so that it's addressed here and you guys can look at it, just remember, not just because someone says something doesn't make it so. All right. You really have to do your due diligence. You have to do research. Always be questioning. Like I said in the last one, always, always, always be questioning. All right. Now, what did I want to do? A lot of you were very receptive to the Coleman case. So I do have another video I'm going to do about the Coleman case, comparing the parents of Chris Coleman to the parents of Chris Watts. And then also giving you a little more background and details that I have about the Coleman case. Okay? So that video will be coming up. Now this video right here is going to be about Nicole Atkinson's interview. And she gave an interview after, remember I told you that time there was a little bit of a, I don't know what you call it, a little bit of a problem with coming down to the station. She had to go to work, and then she, not that she didn't want to be helpful, but she couldn't get to work, so they agreed to go to where she was working, and this is where this interview was done. So I'm going to bring that to you, and this is my own transcribing the recording as I sat and listened to it and I was typing. So that's what I'm going to bring you. It has a couple of very interesting tidbits that don't really sync up with things that Chris Watts has said. So that's interesting. So it's going to give us some things to ponder. Okay, what else did I have to say before we get into this? Is there anything else I needed to clear up real fast? Oh, you guys have been asking for merchandise from me. So what I need is, I don't know, if you want to send me, I know someone posted a comment, it wasn't, might have been something with mommy or crime talk with mommy, or it's time to talk with mommy about crime. I don't know, I don't remember what it was. It wasn't on a YouTube video comment, it was on the ones that go in that community post where you post about upcoming videos. I have to go back and look at that. You guys want to throw out some taglines, slogans, whatever, I don't know, things like don't make mommy take her glasses off, or it's crime talk with mommy, and I don't know. I'm kind of brainstorming something that's catchy. So if you guys have any ideas, you can put them there. I have a few ideas myself, so I can look at them and compare them. I'm not really sure how all of that works, but I'm sure that I can figure that out. We'll see. What else did I want to address? Anything else that you guys asked me? I know you've asked me for some other cases, and I will look into those. I'm trying to think of anything else. I think that's it. All right, so let's get into this Nicole interview and see what we can learn here, okay? Okay, guys, so let's get right into this interview now. First, when I was listening with headphones on, and sometimes that's a little hard because these guys, it sounds almost like they're throwing the recorder, but this officer, and I don't have his name in front of me, it might have been allergies, but he was like clearing his throat every minute. He was breathing so heavy. I thought he was going to have a heart attack. I'm like, is this guy okay? I hope he's okay. He sounds like he's going to have a heart attack. Somebody offer the guy a glass of water. I don't know. If you listen to, I just felt bad for the guy because it really sounded like he was struggling. And I know it was in August and some people have allergies. I don't know how it is out in Colorado. It's very dry out there, isn't it? But it's a high altitude. So, yeah, who knows? But yeah, I felt bad for the guy. And it was like through the entire interview. And then if you're listening with headphones, they're like slamming against the recorder. And yeah, it was interesting. But anyway, so I found out Nicole, when she gave her birthday, has the same birthday I do. So, okay, birthday twins. And let's see. So they start right away with her. He asks her name, and is it Shanann or is it Shanann? And how do you pronounce it? So she says it's Shanann, like shenanigans. Okay. So then he remembered. He kept saying, "Oh, shenanigans." So he asked, how he met her, and she explained that Sandy, Shanann's mother, had lived out there for a period of time when Shanann was pregnant with Celeste, and then, on through, I believe it was past her first birthday, because that's when I think that was the first time that Nicole went to the house, was Cece's first birthday, but she had met Sandy prior to that when Sandy was working as a hairdresser in one of the salons that Nicole managed. So they started a friendship. She invited her over to the house for Cece's first birthday, and that would have been July of 2016. So she came over, she met Shanann and Chris at the same time. They, hit it off. Their kids were close in age, so they developed a friendship, and then Shanann gave her some Thrive samples, and she held out for a while, and I think she just signed on to be a promoter a year ago. I think that's what she said. Okay, so they have this friendship and everything, and so she's friendly with Sandy and with Shanann. And met Chris at the same time, and, she didn't have any issues with Chris then, not at all. It's funny, in this interview, the officer asks about Thrive, and it's funny because you gotta give Nicole credit because she was trying to get him on board, I think, with a little spiel right there. So that was good. That would be interesting to see if he took her up on that. Anyway, okay, so she says, now this is the first point to ponder. And I have a theory for this, but I don't know. Remember when Chris said that he drove Shanann to the airport? Those pants burned up on that one because that's another lie. And I thought, well, wait, who did he say that to? Where did that come from? I know one of his co-workers mentioned it. So was that a little white lie that he told to his co-workers because he had to take care of the kids? So he just wanted to say he was taking the day off to take Shanann to the airport? Was that a little white lie just for them? Or was he also telling Tammy and Special Agent Coder that? I have to go back and look, because I'll give him the pass if he did it with the co-workers only. But if he's telling Special Agent Coder and everyone that he dropped her off at the airport, he's not getting a pass, okay? Because Nicole took her to the airport. In fact, She said that Shanann was up like at 3:30 taking a shower. They had to leave very early. She was at Shanann's house, I believe it was 4:30. And then their plane took off at 7. Let me see. She was waiting, Shanann was already waiting on the front porch. She didn't want her to, ring the bell or do anything because she didn't want to wake the kids. It was really early. So she told her, just text me when you're here. But she was already on the porch when Nicole pulled up. Yeah, 7 a.m. 7 a.m. they had the flight, so they got to the airport around 5. She picked her up at 4:30 and then got to the airport around 5. She said all Shanann had was her purse and a black carry-on, and she was wearing flip-flops, that she always wears these flip-flops, and Nicole had even taken a picture of them, which she gave to the officer. So it was kind of a little bit jumbled how first she wanted to tell the story, he was asking questions, he kept cutting her off, which was driving me crazy because sometimes when you cut somebody off, they don't remember what they were going to say, and it's like, just let them talk. And I know Special Agent Coder, usually that's what he did. He just, you talk, I'll take notes, and then I'll come back. I'll write little questions but I'm going to let you talk first. But this guy kept interrupting her, so. But she came back. I was very glad she came back. She remembered her points. Okay. This was a training that they went to in Scottsdale, right at the Embassy Suites in Scottsdale. And she said that Shanann wasn't acting herself. She's usually, really upbeat and happy, and she wasn't. She was barely drinking water. Nicole was carrying around a water bottle to keep giving her water to drink, and other friends like Cassie, were making her eat, but she could only eat a couple of bites at a time. She had an anti-nausea medication with her and a migraine medicine with her. She was suffering from a myriad of things, including migraines, a lot of aches and pains, especially on the plane. She could not get comfortable in her seat. So the headaches, and they said, of course, she was probably a wreck over this Chris stuff. So they went back to North Carolina, and that's when Nicole remembered there were texts that she sent along that showed that Chris was becoming more and more distant. And prior to going to North Carolina, Nicole did see them in San Diego at that other Lavelle trip, and said they were very lovey-dovey and fine. And there were pictures posted on Facebook all over. And in fact, she said that they were, having sex so much that they were having it in the pantry when the kids were in the next room. And then came this trip to North Carolina, and then when he got to North Carolina, he didn't even want to touch her. So she was really upset about that. And then the whole hullabaloo with Cindy, with the nuts, and all of that craziness. And then Chris remember he went to the parents for the one day. Well, she said when he came back from that one day with the parents, he was acting very, very strange. Very stranger than ever. And I wonder why. So that was a big thing that Shanann's mother and Shanann noticed and told Nicole about. And Nicole could sense something was a little bit different because she noticed that when Shanann was in North Carolina, she wasn't even posting selfies. She said she normally would post a selfie even for business, pointing to, I guess, whatever shake she was having in the morning or something. She wasn't even doing that. And then when Chris came out, she expected to see, like what she did in San Diego, a lot of lovey-dovey photos of them together, especially because he had been away 5 weeks, with getting that together, with his wife and getting together with his wife and the kids and all of that stuff. And she expected to see that, and she didn't see any of that. So she thought that was really strange, okay? And then, she had heard about all of this discord, and she knew that Chris's parents didn't like Shanann. She didn't know the exact reasons why, and she said that Shanann had mentioned something about this was kind of like when he came back from the house this time, kind of treating her like the way he did after they got married. You see, you remember when I told you that, and I told you that Cindy and Jamie and the family that didn't go, because the only ones that went were the grandmother and I believe an uncle, probably threw a huge hissy fit that morning, right? And expected him to call off the wedding, and probably were flabbergasted when he didn't call off the wedding. But they wanted to make it as miserable as possible for him and pit him up against the wife, and just very childish, immature games. And apparently I'm right, because Nicole said that after the wedding, that's when Chris acted like this once before, and that's what she says in some of her texts about of what your mother did to you and this and that, because what his mother was doing to him was probably saying, how could you have married her? I can't believe you went and did that. After all of this, no wonder, they think Shanann wanted to go to Colorado. I'm sure it was him that wanted to get away from that, because it was just making his marriage miserable. And so I guess when they got away from that, it was okay. But yeah, I'm sure that Cindy was badgering the heck out of him, because he married Shanann and she didn't like Shanann, and how could he do that? So yeah, exactly what I had figured. So some of the things that she was saying in North Carolina in text to Nicole were that, that he won't sleep in the same bed, he won't touch, he won't cuddle with her, nothing. That the only other time he acted like this was after the wedding, that his parents did not attend, and does not know why he's doing this again. Nicole said Shanann could be bossy, but in a good way, not a bitchy way to do things. Like someone that encourages you, especially someone she was training like Nicole to be a promoter. Of course, you're going to have to encourage them and take a leadership role in that. And sometimes, that's trying to encourage people to do things that's outside of their comfort zone and all of that. So this is very, very interesting, guys, what I'm going to tell you next. The day they found out the gender with the ultrasound was August 8th. Do you remember what else Chris was doing on August 8th? Do you guys remember what Chris was doing on August 8th? Well, he was being NK's little errand boy, remember? And he had to go to the Toyota dealership, pick up her touch-up paint, pick up her wipers, drop them off at her house. That probably explains why he was late, rushing through the door to get to the ultrasound appointment. You see, Nicole had gone over to watch the two girls while they went to the ultrasound appointment. And she said Chris rushed through the door. He was late getting home. I wonder what he was doing, right? Before his ultrasound appointment, what he was doing over there? Yeah. She said he normally gives her a hug. He wouldn't even acknowledge her. He didn't even say hello. Nicole, just if you're watching this, you're lucky he didn't give you a hug, because I can imagine what he was doing before that. So who knows if he even ever washed his hands. But okay, so she said, he didn't even say hello, nothing. And they went off for the ultrasound. They were late, they were rushing. They went off for the ultrasound, they came back. She had the envelope sealed up. They were supposed to have a gender reveal party that coming weekend. Okay, that would be the weekend after Shanann and the girls went missing. And she gave the envelope to Nikki, and Nikki said, can I look now? And she said, no, you can't look here. And she said, well, I'm going to look in my car then. Okay. And even when they came back, I don't think Chris, didn't do much of anything. And then later on that night at about 9:55, Shanann texted Nikki and was very, very upset, because she said during the ultrasound at 9:55, Shanann texted Nikki and said that, Chris went with his whole non-compatible thing, again, his little speech from his presentation. He refused to hug her. When she was having the ultrasound, she squeezed his hand and he didn't squeeze it back. He said, I thought a baby would fix things, and it's not. That's according to his bright plan, his little presentation. He refused to go to counseling. And this is all on the 8th, after coming back from NK's apartment after he was her little errand boy. Though remember, NK really doesn't mention that little meeting on the 8th, except in passing that he just dropped off some paint. She didn't tell any of the details about what happened. Remember, she just totally left that out. And she didn't volunteer the paint until it was like the 4th or 5th time they interviewed her on the same thing. Right, because she had a hard time remembering. She was running a Jodi Arias line, you know. Oh, my memory is gone, but I could tell you what I ate for breakfast 4 years ago on the 13th, the drink that I got on Starbucks that day, and this thing, but yeah, no, you can't, no, the 8th of August? No, I can't remember that, I don't even know what, it's a few days away, and they're asking something, you know, when's the last time you saw someone, but that slips their mind. Yes. Okay, so she's very upset, Shanann. Shanann's really upset about all of this, that he's treating her like this. He said he thought the baby would fix stuff. It doesn't. We're not compatible. You know, blah, 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 blah. He's telling her all this crap. And so she says to Nikki, listen, I don't want to go through with the gender reveal. I'm not going to put my friends through having to put up with a fake happy Chris. Okay? She said that he doesn't care Chris doesn't care that he's hurting her. He says he is done. This is what he did. He says he is done and we'll work it out. How do you work it out? That's what she said. Well, there's Chris again, because remember Chris is an open book with things. He's done and he'll work it out. He didn't mean I'll work it out with you. He didn't mean I'm going to work on things in our marriage. He didn't mean any of that. He's done, and he's going to work it out. He's going to work it out how to get rid of his family. He's going to work it out how to get rid of these obstacles that are in the way. You know? Because that's what you do. You annihilate your family when they're in the way, according to Chris. Okay? So that's what he meant here. See, he will tell the truth. You just got to interpret it or reverse it, but it's there. After she says that, she says to Nikki, can you just tell me what we're having, because I need some happy news right now. I'm not going to tell anyone. I'm not even going to tell Chris. And Nikki says, oh gosh, I really want to see your face, because Nikki knows she's having a boy, okay? And she really wants to see Shanann's face. She doesn't just want to tell her over a text. So she says, I don't want to tell you over the text. And she only lives 5 minutes away. She said, do you want me to come over now? I just want to really see your face when I tell you this. And Shanann said, no, I'm very upset. You know, I've already been upset. And I think she said she was crying, and she just, tell me in the morning if you want to see my face. You know, come in the morning and we'll do it. So she said, you sure you don't want to have the gender reveal? No, I don't want to do that. So anyway, Nikki, before she goes there in the morning, she's a really good friend, stops at Walmart and got her some kind of, I guess, baby poppers, and I guess they were boy ones, in case she said that her and Chris wanted to do something for the kids. So she got this bag, and she was tearing up and crying when she was in this interview talking about this, okay? Because you have to understand, this is before Chris admitted anything. So they still think they're missing persons, but you can tell that Nicole has a really, really bad feeling. And she had a really, really bad feeling from the day she entered that house, but we'll go into that in just a minute. So anyway, she brings this stuff to Shanann in the bag, and she says, you know, you might want to do something like that for you and Chris. And she says, and Shanann was going out to go get the lawnmower to mow the back lawn, to take some of the burden off Chris. She was trying to do things that would make things better. And it was a hot day, and Nikki was like, you can't do that. You can't mow the lawn like that. You know, you're not in any condition to do that. And she's like, Shanann was adamant about it, so Nikki just grabbed the lawnmower and she mowed the backyard, and that was really nice. So anyway, let's see now. Except that it just probably gave Screwball some more time to have some quickies with his mistress. But yeah, it's just crazy. Anyway, so she doesn't tell us what, you know, how she told Chris, or if they used any of that stuff with the kids or the girls. But that would be the 9th. And the next day, remember, they're leaving actually, you know, very early the next day to go on that training in Scottsdale. So she said Shanann called her at 3:30. She had taken a shower and went off to this thing. And the first, you know, she said that Shanann had that self-help marriage book. She had it on, I don't know if she got it at Audible or something, because it was she could hear it, she could listen to it, and she was listening to it and taking notes in this notebook about all how she could change and the changes she could make to save her marriage. Sent a copy to Chris, hoped that he was reading it. Yeah, he threw it in the garbage. And, was really trying to save her marriage. In fact, Nikki had said when they booked the trip, the reason they chose a later flight is because after the training was over, they were going to go out and do some things in Scottsdale, see a little bit of Arizona together with, the other girls that they were friends with, and have a good time, and then fly out later that evening. But they checked out of the rooms at 11, so they ended up sitting in the lobby, and Nikki sat with her in the lobby because she just really wanted to listen to that book and write in her notes, and Nicole wanted to be with her. So they just stayed in the hotel. Very unlike Shanann, she said. And even, she said, Shanann was second-guessing everything she did, in speaking with people. Oh, did I say the wrong thing there? Did I say the wrong thing there? Because her confidence, everything was completely shattered. She was a total wreck, just totally not herself. Cassie and the other girls that were along on this trip, said the same thing. So anyway, they go to leave finally, but the flight is delayed. And instead of getting in after 11, the flight was not going to be until almost 1 in the morning. Okay, it was 12:45, I believe it was. And so while they're in the airport, Shanann says to Nikki, can you watch my stuff? I'm going to give Chris a call. Oh, before that, she found out about the Rockies game and then got a babysitter, which is very unlike him. She said, he doesn't usually go out when I'm not there. And he went to this Rockies game. Okay, it was an afternoon game, but he didn't get back until very late. Here's another thing to ponder. She says Shanann knew what time he got home because she has the little alert on her phone that showed the door at 10:30. She either didn't have that in North Carolina, he either disabled it. What was the deal on that? So, wait a second. Now this puts a lot of other things into perspective. If she did have the alert, so the time that NK said she came through the front door and he had the furniture piled up and he could only open the door a certain way, could that have been for that reason? Did she just get alerts, or did she have the camera as well on her phone? That's what I need to know, that part of it. Or did she just get an alert? Because if you look back on Chris getting alerts, he asks, was it you, Nikki, at the house that I got the alert on the door? He didn't see her because the garage doesn't have a camera, okay? The garage just says someone's trying to open the door. The front door has the camera, okay? The front door does. But I don't know if their phone app shows the person that's at the door. It should, unless he disabled something. But then wouldn't she have seen Nikki come to the door that day? But remember, he opened the door. He opened the door. So how does that work? If he opened the door, could he have shut the sensor off? Does the doorbell just pick up on motion detection? Shouldn't it have picked her up? I don't know. That's very, very interesting. So, or did he take the router out so that it couldn't send that information to the phone? I don't know. How would she not have seen her? And if she saw her on July 4th, do you think she would have said something or flown home? Yeah. So he obviously did something, or she didn't even have that app on her phone in North Carolina and only had it after she got home. Because remember, she kept telling him from North Carolina, you need to call Vivint, you need to call Vivint, constantly, right? So, yeah. What's the deal on that? I'd like to know a little more about that. But she said that she knew that he got home at that time. Well, remember, he didn't go through the front door. He went through the garage. So another thing that makes me think, is that doorbell camera Vivint or is it Ring? If it's Ring, it's not through Vivint. Okay? If it's Vivint, then where's the footage of Nicole coming in there? If she just got their alert on the garage door, then it's just an alert without having the person's picture. We know that because he didn't know that it was Nikki at his house. He asked her, "Is that you at my house? Are you fooling around my garage door?" If he saw Nikki, he wouldn't have to ask that question, right? If he saw her, no. So he got an alert. That's it. Just an alert. And how is it? He doesn't have cameras on the outside of the garage. If someone's fooling around with the keypad, like Nicole said, that was triggering something in the door to send an alert to Chris, but the keypad didn't work. So I don't know what kind of alert it was sending, because they couldn't get the door open, just that somebody's messing with your keypad. I don't know. So anyway, she says, well, he got home late. So then he says, well, I went out to dinner, and Shanann was trying not to be snarky or snippy, but she saw on her phone that the charge was over $60. And, that doesn't sound right for, a burger and a beer, or even salmon and a beer for one. And Nicole was trying to make her feel better by saying, oh, well, look, we just went out, and Nicole said Nicole they went to a Mexican place that probably would have had similar prices, because she knew this lazy dog would have had similar prices. And Nicole's tab, because she had some drinks and stuff, was $40 or so. And so then Shanann said, yeah, but that's like still $20 less for one person, so it's not making me feel better. And she said, well, maybe he bought beers for his friends. Oh no, I think he would have told me. So anyway, she said she mentioned it to Chris, but she wasn't snarky, and she just said, save that receipt, because she could put it on her expense account or something, and she just wanted to see the receipt and want him to know that she's looking at it. And someone would say, oh my gosh, is he going to shake in his boots now, his Red Wing boots, or he's going to shake in the rubber ones, I don't know. But is he shaking because now she's going to be on to him, and she's going to see, an itemized receipt for 2 dinners and whatever. But of course he could say, oh my gosh, I don't know what happened, I put it through the wall. There's a million lies he could have made up for that receipt. But I guess he was feeling a little bit of pressure on that. So anyway, they get home at 1:48. She watches Shanann go into the house. And then the next morning she said that she knew Shanann had a 9:00 a.m. doctor's appointment. And Nikki had wondered, she had texted her earlier in the morning, and she thought, okay, well, maybe she's crashed out, so I'm not going to bother her, even though Shanann said to Nikki, oh, I have to get up in 3 hours because I have to get the girls to school, and I've got this doctor's appointment, and all of this, right? So now, Nikki's not thinking anything of it. Again, she tries to text her, nothing. She didn't go on Facebook, so she didn't see, but then when she found out there was no post from Shanann on Facebook, that made things a little bit even more strange. Okay, so she said, sent her another text around, let me see what it was. Oh, before all that, she let Nikki know that she had that trip planned. She was sending Nikki Groupon deals to see, because I guess Nikki knows a lot more of the area. I guess maybe she was born and raised there, I don't know. But she was sending her Groupon deals to see which one would be best in different places, see what she knew. And she said that Chris had agreed to go on that trip with her. That was right before she went on this trip, so that could have just been like, yeah, I'll just tell you whatever you want, just to get you out of here and let you go so I can take care of what I need to take care of, right? It was also their dating, the anniversary of their first date, that August 9th, after that reveal, after that ultrasound. So she had brought the little baby poppers or whatever they are over there, champagne popper things, she said, for them if they wanted to do that by themselves. Nikki started with a text that next morning at 8:45. How are you? And nothing. At 8:55, she said, I wanted to see if you're okay. I know you were not feeling well last night, and wanted to see what she was doing. Still no answer, 8:55, right? She didn't hear from her. She started getting a little more concerned. You know, she knew she had the doctor. She knew she had the school. She thought she was going to call the school, but then she didn't call the school. And she ended up that she had spoken to Cassie. She had to look for a house for Cassie. Cassie's another friend of theirs that does Thrive, and Cassie's moving to the area. So I guess she told Nikki, can you just drive by, maybe take some pictures of the outside of a house or something. So Nikki was on her way to do that. And then while she was on the phone with Cassie and Christina, the girl that lives in Hawaii, the one that stayed with Shanann and Chris, like I told you about in another video, you know, everybody was getting concerned because they were saying, look, she hasn't posted on Facebook. This is how she was at this conference, at this training. What is going on? You know, you're out there, you're over there. Why don't you just stop by and see what's going on, right? So that's when Nikki stopped there, because Nikki had been out running errands anyway. She had her 16-year-old son in the car with her. She had her almost 3-year-old daughter in the car with her. So she looked at that house for Cassie, and then she went over to Shanann's house. Well, she, you know, rang the doorbell. Nobody's there. And it just so happens that the week that Chris was in North Carolina, that it was Nikki that dog sat for Dieter. So Nikki knew the code to get into the house. So after, you know, ringing the bell, calling out for her, and all of this stuff, she just punched in that code because she wanted to see if anything was wrong. She was going to call in to the house. So she couldn't get the front door open because of the hotel-style latch, right? Now she's getting, like, really concerned because they could yell in and didn't hear anything. She knew that the dog was still in its crate, which is something they don't do when they're home, only when they go away. They went around to the back. They could look through the sliding glass door, but they had the bar across it, okay, besides it being locked. Everything else was locked up tight. They couldn't see any sign of anyone in the house. And so she's starting to get feeling really weird because she just had a bad feeling. And then she said, well, let me see if her car's in the garage. She couldn't see through the windows. They're up high. But her son said if she backed the car in by the garage, then he could stand up on the car and look into the windows. This is just what he did, and he saw her car. So then once she knew the car was there, she started to really get concerned. All right, so she calls Chris, and it was about, 12 something when she called him. And so he said she did not take the girls to daycare and took them to a play date. You see, he knew right away, okay, here's where his lie, he was pretty fast on this lie. He knew that if he said she took the kids to the school, that Nikki could call the school and find out the kids weren't there, right? Right. So he says, oh, she didn't take the kids to school or to daycare, whatever he calls it. She took the kids on a play date. Now, Nicole finds this weird because it was the first day of school for them. Why would she take them to a play date instead? Second of all, she would never leave without her car. Okay, so it didn't make sense either way. So she's already suspect. Okay, so then he says, I don't know what Shanann told you, but we're separating and we're putting the house on the market. And so Nikki says, look, I don't care what's going on in your personal life. That's not why I'm calling you. I'm calling you because my friend wasn't feeling good. I can't get a hold of her now. This is very unlike her. Her car's here. This is strange. She says to him, if she's on a play date, well, why doesn't she have her car? And he says, I'm busy at work now. And he said, are you messing with my garage door because you set off an alarm? And she said, yeah, that was me. And he hung up the phone with her. And then she said her son accidentally set off the alarm again. And then he called and said, are you still at my house? Can you stop messing with my garage door? You sent me another alert. And he sounds like he's a little agitated at this point. And she said she lied and said, oh yeah, we were at your house. Yeah, he accidentally hit it again, but we're gone. But she was still at the house. At this point, she goes to the doctor's office, and she knows because of HIPAA laws, they're not going to be able to tell her much, but she was really upset, and she said to them, I know you can't tell me much. My friend, I can't find her anywhere. It's very, very strange. Cars in the garage. Can't find them. Can't find her daughters. You just tell me if she made her appointment. She had an appointment here at 9 o'clock. All you have to tell me is yes or no, was she here? And the woman behind the counter said, no, she wasn't here. Now Nicole starts getting really upset. So she starts calling Cassie and Christina, and she has them on the phone, and they're telling her, you have to go, back to that house. You have to call the police. You have to get a health and wellness check. And I think some of them were calling Chris. I believe Cassie was as well. And so now Nikki's getting a little more freaked out. So she said something seriously wrong when she was talking to Cassie and Christina, and they said, call Chris and call the cops. Cassie had called, and she said, he's on his way. He said he'll be there in 30 minutes. And that was at like 12:41. So at 1:31, he still, wasn't there. And then at 1:52, called Chris, and she was like, where are you? And she told him that the police were called, because he had told Cassie not to call the police, don't get the police involved, and he had told Nikki, and she then told them the police are here. I believe that was 1:52, and he said he was 10 to 15 minutes away at that point. So now, here's the other thing to ponder. She called Sandy, and Sandy didn't even know what was going on. So how would Sandy have called the school? Remember those calls to the school? Why would Sandy have called? Why would Sandy say anything about, she could have called at 3 o'clock when they were missing, but that one where she said, well, I don't want to be a bother or anything, that could have been Cindy Watts. That, oh, I'm sorry for being concerned or whatever. That could have been Cindy Watts that called, and then it could have been NK. But they weren't, Sandy didn't even know. Now, I don't know if anybody ever formally asked Sandy, which you think they would, but nothing surprises me on this case. Sandy doesn't know. So now Chris gets there, and the police officer says, where's your wife? He says he doesn't know. It did not dawn on her that he immediately opened the garage door and opened the car door to the front passenger. He opened the front passenger car door, and she doesn't know why, but thinks it might have been to distract them all from something. She said that, remember he said that they went in through the front door? And she's saying they went in through the garage, okay? She says they went in through the garage, but that he distracted them with opening the car door, and so they were behind him a bit. And she said, and then when the officer, I think was the second one in through the basement, and her and her son were after him, and then they split up and they just went looking for Shanann and the girls. So she doesn't know if that was an effort to delay them. She doesn't know, but she's been replaying events in her head and coming up with different scenarios and things. So they see that the car seats are in the car. So another thing that's strange, right? Because someone's just going to have car seats. That's like what she said, that she's just going to go in with, right? Everybody splits up. They're looking for them downstairs, upstairs. They're nowhere. The house is clean and neat. The officer asks if anything smells odd. She says, no, it doesn't smell odd. It just feels really weird in there. And her mind was not in a good place. So she said that Shanann never left her car, never. And she started to feel worse, and they all ended up upstairs. Shanann makes her daughter's beds every day, and the beds were not made. The master bed was stripped. She said she believes there was a mattress cover on it, but there were bedding in 2 corners of the room. Even the pillows were on the floor, she said. She said she didn't go in the master bedroom, but Chris had went in there, and he comes out saying, oh, look what I found, her wedding ring. The police officer asked if Shanann had her phone. And then Nicole's son found it shoved down in the cushions of the sofa. And then Cassie had the new code, which was the baby's due date, right? Then Nicole started to get calls from Sandy, so she walked away because Sandy was telling her to go look for stuff, like, hurry up, go look down and see if the kid's medication is there. Go look and see if her purse is there. Go look and see if this is there, if that is there. Because she said Sandy had lived with them and she knew certain things that she would take. And Sandy also asked her, go check if all the knives are there. See, Sandy was already suspecting foul play. We know that. She had said that to the officer, I think that he did something to them, and I think he's going to try to cover it up with oil by pouring oil on them. So I guess she thought, he might have stabbed them, whatever. She asked her to go check the knives, and Nicole said no, all the knives were there. She found the medication. In fact, she said there were several bags from when they got back from North Carolina of medication that were in Ziplocs that were all packed by Shanann's desk. She said, look, if she was running out, wouldn't she just have grabbed these bags? It's so easy to take them. She would have never left without her children's medication. So, yeah, she said, yep, everything was still there with that. Her purse, she said, I passed her purse so many times. It was by the door of her office. It was like inside, as if someone walked by and just put it, on the floor. And I said, well, do you think it looked weird there? Or, was that a place where she would put it? She said, well, she could have put it there, when she was walking by. She didn't feel anything too weird about that. And then she found the purse and she gave it to Chris, she said. She did find it odd that, being how OCD Shanann was, that her flip-flops were by the door, but Bella had a pair of shoes that were out, and Cece had a pair of shoes that were out, and then there were 2 pairs of shoes on the back deck. Remember, Chris said they got those wet, and she said, Shanann would have never left. It would have killed her to leave the house with all those shoes, and why would they have shoes out if they're, it doesn't make sense. And then she tried to make it make sense to her. Well, maybe they were trying on a different pair of shoes, and Shanann said, hurry up, we gotta go, but didn't make sense on why Shanann's shoes would still be there. So she didn't understand that. And she said in the meantime, Sandy is still making her go around and look for things. And she said she went over to the neighbor's house, and the neighbor said that he has cameras that face the driveway, and they only go on with motion. So it didn't pick Shanann going in the house, but he had footage of Chris loading up at 5:18, and she thought, that's really strange. What is he loading up? Shanann doesn't let him back in the driveway. Then she got a really bad feeling, okay? So she's still trying to be cordial to Chris. She doesn't want to be that she suspects him. After the videos is when she found the purse. So after she saw the videos is when she said she saw the purse, okay? And then she gave it to Chris. She said the kids' luggage was there. They had special luggage that she bought for them to take on the plane to North Carolina. If she ran away or whatever they're trying to say, she would use the kids' luggage. Why would, her luggage still be there? It didn't make any sense. Nothing made sense. So they asked Nicole if she knew anything about debt, and she said she knew that they filed bankruptcy a couple of years back when she was house sitting. She said she did see some envelopes that would indicate that they might have some debt, and she said that Shanann makes a good amount of money now, and Chris working in the oil fields, he must make a good amount of money. And then she said there were some things like the friends said, make sure you tell him that he told Cassie not to get the police involved when she called him. He mixed up the stories with everyone. She said he was telling Addie something different than he told Cassie, than he told Nikki. One was a play date, one was the kids were at school, one was something else. So he was mixing his stories up with them. Chris was being cold. He was not acting normal. And she asked the CBI agent, is this normal? Do you think this? They said, no, this is not normal. And the circumstances make it more so not normal. She asked if Chris was a suspect. He said it's actually still a missing person. So we don't really have a suspect. But yeah, he let her know, yeah, we're looking at him. So she said, what should I do? Should I go around him or not? I don't want to make him think. He said, well, it's best you just keep your distance from him. And then about talking to the press, she had talked to the press that day. And he told her, yeah, it's better you don't do that either. When she was with Chris, I think it was when she went back, she said, did you log into her Lavelle account to see, because they get something, I guess they have to approve it, and then it goes into their checking account. And he said, oh, I don't know. So then, I don't know, she had him log in, and they found out that she didn't do that check the last Tuesday, and this was now Tuesday. This was the next day that she went there, Tuesday, because that's when it was Tuesday. That's when they get paid. And so she said, well, why don't you log in? Because maybe if she logged in and put it there, we know she's somewhere. So Chris was like, oh, really? And, of course he knew. And so he logs in, and not only did she not put in that Tuesday's check, there was also another one. So she told him, she goes, I don't know if it was stupid now to let them go into the account because they're going to get bounced back or something. She was afraid, Shanann wasn't going to get the money, but she's like, I don't even know if he ended up doing it. So then she said she wanted to check with the CEO of Lavelle to see if the checks hit the account. And then she said, if this was a crime of passion, if Chris killed her in a crime of passion, she thinks he would strangle her due to her neck injury. Okay? And she also said another interesting thing. Now, some of you didn't know how that works with Lavelle. When you work with Lavelle, you make a commission on the sales of all the people in your organization, okay? But you also get bonuses as you reach certain tiers. Those bonuses are those trips, and there's also a car allowance, okay? So when you reach a certain level, Lavelle gives them $800 once they show that they have leased a car. And I believe with Lavelle, there is certain cars you can lease, and I don't even know if they have their own company for that. It's, but the promoter, as they call it with Lavelle, takes out the lease, they show it to Lavelle, and Lavelle gives them an additional $800 a month to pay for that lease. Now, should they fall from that tier, well, then they're going to have to pay to cover that car. But Shanann was there, and not only was she there, remember that she enrolled Chris under her, so technically she was running two businesses, okay? She was running one under Chris's name and one under her name, and he was under her, so it was all of her business, but she had him as a promoter, even though he wasn't really promoting anything. And so he was getting, a check, and he was getting the car bonus because she had elevated him to a tier that he was qualifying for that $800 car bonus. Now, he did mention something to one coworker that, yes, he was going to get the car. They had gotten rid of a Ford Explorer, she said, 3 to 6 months ago. But with Lavelle, you can either take the $800 car bonus once you show the lease, or you could just take the extra, they would give you an extra $300. They had been taking just the $300 for the tier under that she got Chris elevated to. But remember, he was looking up that Audi, so I don't know where he was looking up that Audi, unless he just had these delusional dreams. Did he think that he was going to be able to run her Lavelle business and get the Audi? Or did he think that he can't sell that Lexus because it's not his, it's leased, and if he's not running the Lavelle business, that lease is not going to be paid for. So I guess he just thought, oh, he's going to sell this house, bing, bang, boom, and then whatever, let her business run into the ground, or whatever he does, and, let them take away the car, whatever, default on the lease, and then he would buy himself that Audi that he was pricing with the proceeds when he sold the house, I guess. Guess that's what he was setting that up for. So right now they were taking that stipend of $300 instead of another vehicle. And she said, Shanann was always very careful about where she shopped and where she ate, and would always try to do the least expensive option. Okay, and that's about it with Nicole. She apologized for, being short on the phone at that time of going in. She said she just couldn't take any more time off work. He understood, the officer did. And then, like I said, she teared up and cried a couple of times when talking about this, because the officer said something like, did you know the sex of the baby? What was it? And she said they were having a boy, and she said, they are having a boy. So yeah, that is Nicole's interview. So there are some things to ponder. Why did he lie about dropping her off at the airport? What about Shanann having the alert on her phone, right? What about the calls? It couldn't have been Sandy calling that morning, right? Okay. So we have all of those things to ponder, and I think there were some other points in there. Anyway, yeah, that's a very, if you haven't listened to that interview, you should give it a listen. It's very informative. It's very informative. And it shines some light on everything and shows up Chris's lies. Okay? All right, so I'll let you go on this one. And like I said, I'm going to bring you some information on the Coleman case. In fact, I'm going to look at the parents and how they have some very similar traits to the Wattses. Which ones are more toxic? I don't know, you tell me. But I'm also going to give you some other information that you're going to find very intriguing about what, and get this one, Chris Coleman's father's name is Ron too. Yeah, about what Ron had on his computer. You're not going to believe it. All right, I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the notifications so you don't miss anything. Appreciate your support. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.